So I'd figure I'd start with how I got to this point. This is my original creature. I had it commissioned by an artist. Then I ran it through an AI art program, Stable Diffusion, several times. I got this, and I really liked this. So then I kept going, and I got some more of these. I've been calling it the Glimmer Boar. I'll write 3 versions of it in this episode. And let's start with the most obvious option, the one we want to kill. Why is this thing evil and why is it shiny? I'm not feeling like giving it active malice, but let's say that it naturally attracts fey creatures to it, let's say fairies or small celestial beings, and as a result is used by archfiends as bait to try and draw out these creatures before they can attack and take them out. An additional note here, since they are originally produced by evil beings, I can see their meat being sold and consumed throughout evil groups such as orcs, hobgoblins, what have you. I could also see them kind of running factory ranches to feed their armies. Now a couple got loose way back, so they kind of naturally spread throughout the world, and as a result they actually have quite the connection with elves, so we can have an entire tribe of like elves riding boars into battle. But generally speaking, their presence is the sign of an archfiend who is soon to approach the area and take out whatever creatures that the bait drew in. This has resulted in the death of multiple elvish villages, and the farther out that the boars spread, the larger the threat is. This could even be part of the reason why humans make up like 80% of the population, while elves are like 2 or 3% despite living 3 times as long. So because of this imminent destruction, they're down to have them destroyed, but don't have the will to do it themselves due to the natural fey allure. So they are more than willing to hire out adventurers to go do it for them so they don't have to witness it. Such adventures may also happen to run by fiendish enemies. This also applies to gnomes, and I think their meat would taste good to tieflings. That's just like an extra note. Next, let's go for one that your party would want to protect. This is just a simply celestial being that is naturally appealed to by fae. As a result, many kingdoms quite value them because as a source of multiple fairies in the same location, they are considered holy animals. Additionally, it is possible that maybe fairies in your setting can be used to commune with deities, or maybe not. They vary wildly depending on what you're running. You also might consider making them some sort of like a home, like if you know sprites. You could have a bunch of sprites like build a house on top of the pig, and that could be pretty fun. And then you just have this moving sprite fortress that they use to attack. Additionally, I'd like to drag the beast into some spell components. In particular, I think the dungs and tusks of the beast could be very nice. The dung could be used by clerical spells as some sort of large-scale healing spell. And then the control of the pigs could become very restricted by assorted kingdoms to try and make sure they have as much power as possible. So I could view this being one of those cost spell components, and then you use like homebrew healing spell or something. Like for example, if you want to nerf Healing Spirit in your campaign, let's say that to cast Healing Spirit you need one of these pieces of dung, let's say it's 50 gold pieces just for example, and then it consumes it on the casting of the spell. This makes Healing Spirit not nearly as powerful because it has been limited by finances and availability. In regards to the tusks, I could see those being used in a handful of spells. And particularly a summoning spell of some variety could work well with the tusk. Or whenever you cast an area of effect spell, maybe the tusks of these boar act as a multiplier. So for example, Fireball has like a 30-foot range. What if you can expend a tusk to empower that Fireball and it turns into like a 60-foot range? And you can do that with all the spells, and it becomes a really valuable and rare magic item because no one wants to harm the pigs. This could also make like an entire poaching industry if it's a sacred animal. So you have a sacred animal, and then you have a bunch of poachers, and maybe they even have like druidic guards. Maybe the party could be guarding them during some sort of migration to help them hibernate through the winter, while poachers by the tens of hundreds are pursuing these pigs in the hopes that maybe, just maybe, they can get some of these really valuable components and then sell them onto the wizard market, because the wizard market would be very much into these things. Editing thought, what if they are the only way for wizards to access healing magic? So normally wizards just don't get healing magic, that's mostly like a balancing thing. But what if we tie these boars into the only means that wizards have figured out how to cast healing magic? And then we can make it a little more interesting by making it that they're trying to figure out how to cast healing spells without it, and they're having a lot of trouble on the arcane front, which is why they really want them, but the clerics don't really want to give it to them. And if you're concerned about balance, just think about like comparing it to healing potions. So healing potions like 50 gold pieces, and then you get 1d4 plus 1 healing. So since we can tie it to a gold piece cost with it consuming, we can do like 50 gold piece, and then you get like 1d8 plus 1 healing, or plus intelligence healing. And since there is a gold cost there and a spell slot cost, I would call that mostly balanced. You could make an entire ceremony out of like sawing off one of those tusks, and then a powerful cleric like casts a blessing upon an entire army using the tusk, and that could be a very nice moment. You could also mix in some more Feywild stuff, so you're jumping to and from the Feywild. Maybe these boars act as like a natural point for the Feywild and the material plane to shift. So normally you need to find a specific spot where the area is thinner, and that can sometimes be difficult, and sometimes it can even change over time. And you could use one of these boars as like a plot device. You need to keep the boar alive so you can go to and from the Feywild, and then you can use that as the grounding for a quest through the campaign. And finally, screw your fantasy, I am going to make a version for my steampunk setting, which is still in development and needs many new fantastical creatures to occupy it. Quick summary: cryptids, you capture them, you sell them. That's the plot. So this cryptid would be uniquely valuable dead compared to the others, because you are not simply populating some sort of rich person zoo. You are providing this exotic and rare delicacy. Think of it like eating pufferfish, except it's valuable because it's rare, not because it's dangerous. Past that, I would set up the little lights on it to be organic flashbangs used to distract and escape attackers. It would use tactics of running away, and that could make for some interesting combat situations where you're trying to catch or kill it as it's speeding off. This message is specifically for left ear listeners. You are better than right ear listeners.